Welcome to Mind Matters, and today I'm going to talk about how to stay sane in a pandemic or other unprecedented times. Focusing on promoting mental health and emotional well-being, and also looking at self-care. And I really just wanted to start by talking a bit about mental health and what it is, because for somebody who worked for many years in inpatient psychiatric services and community mental health, it always seemed a bit weird to me to call it mental health, when in fact I was working with people who were really unwell mentally and emotionally. And certainly for people who were in hospital, they were extremely unwell. So when I talk about mental health now, it's a similar thing to talking about physical health. And I'm focusing very much on how to promote that, how to maintain it, and what you can do. And for me, mental health is about being able to live your life on a day-to-day basis and feel confident and good about what you're doing. So it's about being able to wake up in the morning and feel positive about your day, not feel overwhelmed by the day, not feel overwhelmed what you have to do on a day-to-day basis, and also the ability to go out and try things, you know, have the confidence to socialize, to think about forming relationships, friendships, to feel confident in your work as a student, in your workplace, in a job, and just to not feel constantly overwhelmed with the emotion of what you're doing, what you're dealing with. I had a lot of anxiety as a child growing up, and so for me it was quite normal to feel really anxious in situations. And it took me a very long time to realise that actually you don't have to feel like that, that some people don't feel like that. But what I wanted to focus on today was we are in these unprecedented times, and I was thinking today about the kind of things that have been imposed upon us by the lockdown. We've been on lockdown now in the UK, coming into the 5th week, and people have been isolated largely from friends, from family, and very often from work, from their workplace. And that is something that we didn't have any choice about. And as much as you rationalise and realise and recognise the importance of doing what we're doing in order that this virus doesn't spread and doesn't infect and doesn't endanger people's lives, we understand that on an intellectual level. But on an emotional level, we have had our freedoms curtailed in a way that we have never experienced before. And so inevitably that's going to bring up a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts, a lot of emotions. What a lot of people will do in that situation is to make themselves very busy. So you'll have seen an endless supply of Zoom groups, activities to do, online courses that are being offered to people. And in fact, if you find yourself not wanting to or not taking up these offers, these challenges and things that are coming out in mass quantities on a daily basis, there's almost a tendency to think, well, I don't really want to do that. So does that mean there's something wrong with me? Should I be doing these things? Why don't I want to do them? So I suppose what I'm saying is that a lot of the time in our everyday lives, we use distraction and we use activity in order to stop us from really looking at what's going on inside us, on really examining the feelings and the emotions that come up for us. So we shove them back down again by avoiding looking at them. And a big part of the time we don't even realise that we're doing that, because we have these tens of thousands of thoughts every day, between 60 and 80,000 thoughts a day, and the vast majority of these are the same thoughts recycled. So the same thoughts that we had yesterday, the day before, last week, last month, last year. And because of that, we tend to repeat the same behaviours, and so therefore we end up in the same situation largely in our lives. And that's that whole repeating cycle, vicious circle that we can find ourselves in. People will say, myself included in the past, you know, oh, how have I done this? How have I got myself into the same situation again? How did I get here? Well, the only reason that you get here, that you got there, is because you didn't do anything different. So if you don't do anything different, you'll get the same as what you got last time. And that, I suppose, leads me just to bring to mind the opportunity. I was talking in the last film about opportunity in the face of adversity, and that, you know, those opportunities are infinite and limitless. But right now we have this incredible opportunity because we do have more time largely to look at the stuff that's coming up when we stop. So I suppose part of that challenge would be that when stuff comes up that feels uncomfortable, just to sit with it, try sitting with it, and have a look at where that's coming from. You know, what's driving that? What's feeding that? Where is your mind going to feed itself? So one of the things to really promote mental health is to increase your awareness of the thoughts that you have, the habitual thoughts that you have, the thoughts that you have several times a day, maybe tens of times a day. Those thoughts go round and round. I often call them like negative tapes that go round and round in our heads, and that's the self-talk, the things that we say to ourselves, the chat that you have with yourself inside your head. So to give yourself an opportunity to catch those thoughts, to notice those thoughts, to observe those thoughts, you can do in moments of stillness. And I would really, really encourage you to build in some quiet time during the day at the moment in order to promote and maintain your mental health, but also to increase your self-awareness, to increase your knowledge of who you are, of what makes you tick, of the way that your mind works and where it goes to feed itself. Because whatever you focus your attention on will grow. So if you focus on the good things, if you focus on the positive things, if you focus on the things that bring you joy, that make you feel good about yourself, that is going to grow in your life. If you focus on lack and at the moment what you haven't got, so if you're constantly focusing on the fact that you can no longer do some of the things that you were doing before, and you focus on that, that will bring you into a negative spiral. But if you focus on the things, and it literally is just flipping that coin, flipping the mindset, flipping the way that you see the world, and you look at the things that you have now that you didn't have a month ago. So perhaps that is more time. Perhaps that is the opportunity to really appreciate some of the small things in life, to appreciate the unfolding spring, to look at the flowers in your garden, in the local park, to appreciate the food that you eat at the end of the day, rather than feeling that you're rushing off to do some evening activity, which is what you would previously have been doing, meeting friends. Perhaps you'll still be meeting friends in a virtual way later on, but you can take your time to prepare a meal in the evening, to appreciate what you have on the plate in front of you, and then to do your Zoom meeting or your FaceTiming or your WhatsApping later on in the day for a limited amount of time, whereas perhaps you might have gone out for the whole evening and not got back in in time to just fall into bed and then get up again the next day. Different way of looking at the world, different way of apportioning the time that you have in the day. Having some kind of routine is really important in these times, and for a lot of us who are now working from home or working a lot more from home, that can be more of a challenge. And so something else that I would really encourage you to think about, if you haven't done that already, is to have a routine in the day, to keep the same times for getting up, for going to bed, for working, having that workspace in the day, for maybe having something that you want to do in the house, in the garden, but not setting yourself a huge long to-do list, because again, these are challenging times, they can be very stressful times, and each day is going to be different. So be kind to yourself, take one day at a time, notice how you feel, and if you're feeling good and your energy is high and you're feeling motivated and you get up in the morning, then maybe do more that day. But tomorrow is another day. And that might be a slower day, a slower paced day. It could be a faster paced day. It's different. So just observe. Notice how you feel when you get up in the morning. If you're finding that it's a challenge and that your motivation feels low, that your energy feels low, then maybe set yourself some additional task of exercise or stretch in the morning, go for a jog, whatever is your thing. And for me, my meditation, my stretch session, my yoga practice, that's always at the start of the day for me, because that really sets me up for the day. It increases my energy levels. It certainly increases my motivation if I felt that it's been quite a struggle to get out of bed in the morning that day. So movement, exercise, something that's mind, body connected, are really good as forms of movement. But find something that you enjoy. There's absolutely no point in having a form of exercise that you don't want to do and that is really a chore. You need to love it, or at least enjoy it, and then maybe it's something that you will grow to love. But again, I'd really recommend that you find something that you have a real connection with, that feels good for you, that motivates you, and that you feel good when you do that. So whatever I'm feeling when I get on the mat in the morning, by the time I come off my mat, and when I started my daily practice at home, I would aim to do 15 to 20 minutes. Now invariably I find I will be practicing for 45 minutes or an hour, and that time flies for me doing that, because it's something that makes me feel good, and I'm very present when I'm practicing, and it's something that over the years has been a massive bonus to my emotional and mental health and well-being, and I really will often say that, you know, it's been yoga that has kept me sane and has saved me over these years of my life. Other things which are really important to consider are food and nutrition. Eating well, eating the best, freshest, locally sourced and produced foods that you can. So, you know, plenty of fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, fresh salads. We're just coming into all the good season of food. So when you do shop, however you shop, and you're thinking about your meals for the week, make sure that you get as many of those foods as possible. It really, really will make so much difference to how you feel and how your mind functions, how your brain functions. So how you feel physically, emotionally and mentally. That will make a massive difference to the kind of foods that you eat. And if you know that you tend to have a lot of sugars, or when you're feeling challenged that you go for sugars or that you go for carbs and you're heavy on the carbs, then really just consider that, and again observe without any kind of judgment, without beating yourself up, and just see how you can tweak that to perhaps reduce a little bit. But again, we're supposed to be being compassionate and kind with ourselves at the moment. So just as a guideline and something to be mindful of and something to observe in your own life, that will really help. I mentioned earlier about sort of trying to keep a routine of getting up and going to bed at the same time. And in the evening, as you're preparing and winding down at the end of the day, and this is really something that you do need to do, and I was very aware early on of when I kind of switched off from, I got to a saturation point with listening to information and news, and just cut off completely, and decided for a week or so that I wasn't going to listen to any news, and that there was anything that I needed to know or hear about, then I sure would. But I, again, would really recommend that you limit the amount of information, especially late in the evening, that you listen to, and also on social media, because again, depending on what kind of things you're looking at on social media, it's not necessarily the things that are really going to be helpful to you to get a good, peaceful night's rest and to go to bed in a calm, relaxed, more relaxed space, so that you're going to get the best night's sleep and rest that you can. And prioritise these hours of rest and sleep, and to know the difference between the sleep and the quality of the sleep, and also when you're getting some rest during the daytime as well, and at the weekends, when every day can seem more or less the same, and again, our routines of weekends are not as they were. It's important to remember to do something on your days off, on your evenings off, that marks the end of the day, whether that be switching off the phone or having a cut-off point for switching off social media, and getting yourself really into a place and space that is going to help you to feel calm, to be calm at the end of the day. And even if you are working from home, that could be a simple thing like, before you start making dinner in the evening or your evening meal, going and getting changed, perhaps going into the garden, just sit for 5 minutes, or going, taking a shower or a bath, change your clothes to mark that end of the day, more in the way that perhaps you would have done when you were going out to work, and that the end of the day would be significantly marked. These subtleties mean that the boundaries of the things that we normally have in place in our lives can be much more blurred, and once everything starts to be blurred in the boundaries, it can be harder for us to really push them back to where we want them to be. So, for example, with looking at emails or text messages which are work related, if you're working from home, there can be a temptation to look at those. And again, I'd recommend that you have a cut-off point, whether that be 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever it is for you in the hours that you're working, but that actually at that point you switch the phone off and you don't look at it again or switch it on again until the next day, when you're going to be back at your desk or in your workspace and ready to start again for the next day. Next thing really to just say a little bit about is the importance of being in nature, and how important that is for our emotional and mental health and well-being. There's so much evidence-based research now around this, and you may have heard of forest bathing, which is now prescribed in some parts of the world. There are trials in Scotland where there's prescription-based time in nature, and it only takes about 20 minutes of being amongst trees and woodland and greenery for things like your blood pressure to drop, your blood fats to begin to lower a little bit, for your heart rate to drop, and for you to come into a place of calmness, so where the central nervous system is in a much calmer place, and there are actually effects on the vagus nerve and our breathing, respiration rates, which again, unless we consciously think about these things as part of the autonomic nervous system, it's not something that we have to think about. But when we do pay attention to it and think about, we can find that through spending time in nature, within just a very, very short space of time, that makes a fundamental difference to our well-being. So if you can get out during the day, whether that's into your garden at home, if you don't have a garden or an outside space, to go for a walk, even 20 minutes, 30 minutes will make a very big difference to the way that you feel, and will actually help with your focus and your concentration during the rest of the day, whatever you're going to be doing with yourself on that day. Coming back to where we started off with looking at the thoughts, if you build in that space and time during the day, even if it's only 5 minutes, just to be still, and we talked about the importance of routine, if you can build in a routine of just sitting for 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes a day with the breath, and observing how your body feels, how your mind feels, what you're feeling emotionally, and just start to connect with that, you will really begin to be able to make some fundamental and profound shifts in the way that you look at the world and the way that you react to the things that are happening around you. That time allows you, after some time, to create a space between what's happening on the outside and the trigger for that emotional response, that behavioural response, and what you choose or don't choose to do. So what I'm saying is that when we're not aware of the triggers, and we're not aware of what triggers us and drives those emotional responses, those thoughts and those behavioural changes, we can just react to a situation as though we're on automatic pilot, because we are on automatic pilot. We're reacting to something which has been socialised within us from the past. So just that very small space of time, 5 to 10 minutes a day, if you can start to build that in now as a way to promote your mental health and emotional well-being, but also to enhance your mental health from now, for now and for the future, that will be of a massive it will be a massive benefit to you down track in your life. So thank you for joining me today, talking about promoting mental and emotional health in these difficult and challenging times, and also how to turn that challenge around, so that the way that you're looking at it is a way that you can step back just a little bit from what's being presented to you, and to be reflective in that moment of stepping back. This is something that will happen over time. So if you feel that that's something that you can start to do, to take on board, then again, I would really recommend, from my own personal and professional experience, that will reap huge benefits in terms of your ability to feel more at peace in your everyday life, and to feel calm more of the time in your everyday life. You can find me on Facebook at Self Development Leicester, where I post most days, and you can also subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed this session today. So thank you again for joining me, and good health, everyone. Thank you.